I describe the chakras as a map for navigating your life journey. If you were going to go from Taiwan to Hong Kong, you need a map. Otherwise you don't know where to turn and what road to take. Now the map doesn't say you have to go to Hong Kong. The map doesn't say you have to go to India. It doesn't say where you have to go. It just says if you want to go here, this is how you get there. And maybe you take this route, maybe you take that. Well, the chakras are a map to navigate through life, and they're a formula for wholeness. So if you address your life on each one of the chakras and you use that, it's like a recipe, it's a formula that says you will be whole if you address your spirit and your vision and your communication and your love and your power and your feelings and your body. Those are, all those levels give you a template for wholeness.
第五梯加速中，请右扶手站稳踏梯。The escalator is speeding up. Please hold the handrail and stand forward.
嗨，我是 Jacky， 欢迎收听第五梯走走篇，让我们一起自我成长，离开舒适圈，做最好的自己，更好的我们。这一集是全英文的集数，所以在 Spotify 跟 YouTube 上会有中英字幕。那这集非常特别，是访一个脉轮的大师，是一般我们没有聊过的主题，跟平常不太一样。那讲很多像是脉轮怎么样运作，他形容脉轮是灵魂的地图怎么活出完整的自己。那这也是我第一次接触到关于脉轮的东西，所以这位作者呢 Anodea 是在国际上非常知名的博士，那也写过大概9本的关于脉轮的书，所以是脉轮方面的权威。所以从他身上我也学到很多东西，他的故事也非常有趣。他从小就很有一个知道自己要做什么跟使命感的一个灵气那他也带我做了一些基本的脉轮练习所以我从这一集的 podcast 也吸收到很多平常不会接触到的一些知识，那觉得特别有趣，希望大家会喜欢。那在节目开始前呢，也分享这礼拜很多淀粉的活动，包括今天晚上有我们淀粉的自我成长2026计划的第2场的读书会，我们会每个月选一本对我自我成长最有影响的一本书。那这次是与成功有约，我跟大家都以前说过，如果世界上我只剩一本书可以选呢，我会选就是这一本所以把我这本书学到的东西一一跟大家分享，然后也会时间让大家可以交流那我们做一个自己的淀粉的网站跟 App， 让大家可以在上面找到有兴趣的淀粉，然后每个月在我们的 Discord 社群也有淀粉咖啡厅，让大家可以去帮大家配对我们觉得很适合你深度认识的淀粉。那这礼拜活动还有4号还有一个品酒社的立春小聚，然后6号有一个线上的英文聚会，练习口说的英文聚会，然后7号有一个交换书柜第11届淀粉很棒的一个活动，会让很多不同的淀粉把一些彼此看过的书做个交换。然后2月8号有个台北的素食小聚，很多喜欢吃素食淀粉会一起去不同的素食餐厅。2月4号还有一场新淀粉的线上欢迎会，所以这周是很适合加入淀粉很好的时机。我们希望今年透过我们的指南针的方向，找到你的核心价值、核心原则跟核心使命，让我们在自我成长上有方向、养分跟伙伴。那我们马上进入这一集很特别、很不一样、精彩的访谈。Let's go. Okay, so I'm very excited to welcome Anodea to the show. So Anodea is a PhD focused on mind-body health, evolutionary activist, chakra expert, teacher, author, speaker, social change artist. And you describe the chakra as a map of the soul, and how we can, in the course, in your work, you describe how we can absorb and open up each chakra with our body, health, psyche, spirituality, and also take action with activism. And this correlates to a lot of amazing concepts that I learned from you, such as bioenergetics and charge, the vital force that runs through the organism, different types of physical appearance, how it correlates to the chakra focus, and how to heal with exercises to break through the armor. And you talk about the 2 currents, emancipation and liberation. And that's super cool. I'd never heard of that before. And when I was processing this, I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense, right? Focus on, bringing the heaven to earth and having this downward focus and having a balanced chakra system to keep both flowing freely. And you also show a lot of the yoga poses in not just the course, but a lot of the books you've done, how the poses, asanas correlate to different yoga focus and chakras. And it's really interesting to me how all these different things correlate for each other, the body, the health, the psyche, the spirituality. And in the course, you have a lot of also great life advice in general, just when to speak and how to listen better and how to be more aware of your surroundings. I was reading through your course and I'm just very inspired, not just through the concept, but also the actionable items that people can take to observe where they are in their life, where they are in the chakras. And you also talk about the global heart, which is the humanity evolving through the chakra as a species, from love to power of love. Oh, that is so cool. And then how we combine the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, to form a planetary civilization into adulthood. And then you also founded this She Rise movement, which is also super cool. And you talk about the different archetypes of woman leadership to seek in the union of the Shiva and the Jacky. And you also have a Substack called Making Sense of the Chaos. And you talk about the pandemic as a global retreat, the dangers of technology robbing us from their experiences, and the future of the global heart. And what I find really inspiring is you are able to combine ancient wisdom and modern psychology and connecting the divine spiritual power down to very practical, actionable earth healing, manifestation, and creation of a better future. And it's just very down to earth, right? It's spiritual at the core, but very, very down to earth. And how we can, as the planet, clear our collective chakras, removing the demons of fear, greed, and illusion, and in our global body with wisdom and love. So I really, really enjoy your work. I'm a huge fan, and I found it very, very practical and very spiritually enlightening as well. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Jacky. You certainly did your homework.
I had such a good time just reading through everything. Yeah. And you've written 9 books. Forgot to mention The Wheels of Life, The Sevenfold Journey, Eastern Body, Western Mind, Truth About Chakras, The Truth About Neuropaganism, Chakra Balancing Kit, Contact, Waking Up the Global Heart, and Creating on Purpose. Yeah, you've done so much work. It's incredible. Yeah, I'm still so honored to be able to, dive deep with you in all these different topics.
Well, I'm delighted to speak with you today. I'm sure we'll have a great time taking adventures over all these topics.
Yes, amazing. How would you describe yourself with 3 words, just for the audience to get to know you a little bit?
Well, I think people would describe me as courageous, adventurous, and a visionary. Also very creative and a visionary. I have a vision of what humanity could be, and I will not sleep until I do all I can to help it get there.
I love it. Did you always have that since growing up? I saw you taught yourself to read at 4, learn to play piano at 5. Did you just always kind of knew what's happening?
Yeah, and I always was sort of ahead of the curve. And I
too.
learned about chakras before anybody wanted to learn about it. And
wow.
But it's the world catches up with me.
And you're entrepreneurial at 11, selling strawberries.
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, you really read up on me, didn't you? Yeah. I had a little strawberry patch, and I had a little strawberry stand in front of my house, and I would put it out and stand there and sell strawberries and lemonade.
Wow. I think it's a very unique combination if you're able to be, artistic with your paintings, like musical, and know how to read, be really intellectual, and also being entrepreneurial. I feel like a lot of people have these separate elements individually, but not as a whole. So you really have it all combined.
Well, thank you. No one ever taught me how to run a business. I had to figure that out for myself.
Yeah, amazing. And you lived most of your life in California and New York City, is that right?
No, most of my life in California. I grew up on the East Coast in the New York suburbs. But I moved out here in 1972, and I have been here ever since.
Oh, amazing. And can you take us through your life journey, through maybe the art, yoga, how you came to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I began as an artist. Art was my first love, and as a painter. And I was painting large-scale public murals on walls, mostly in Berkeley, San Francisco Bay Area. And they were landscapes, and so I would take long backpacking trips out into the wilderness to do my research on landscapes. And I fell in love with the backpacking, and I also discovered that the quality of my art depended on the quality of my consciousness, my diet, my meditation, things like that. So I developed a meditation practice and a yoga practice, first of all, as a way to improve my art. But then the art fell away, and the meditation and yoga became my life. And I was all set to go to art school in New York City. I had my application all done and my drawings done. And I had a meditation and I had an out-of-body experience, and I saw this book in my lap written by me, and it was a book on the chakras. And from that vision, I knew that I wasn't supposed to go to art school. I was supposed to write a book on the chakras. And I completely changed course in my life. And I began writing my first book, Wheels of Life. And that was back in 1975, 50 years ago.
Oh, wow. How did you first get introduced to chakras in the first place? I think back then, 50 years ago, it wasn't talked about that much, right?
It wasn't talked about at all. But I was reading everything I could on meditation and yoga and metaphysics. And I was reading Ram Dass, his book, The Only Dance There Is, and he mentioned the word chakras. And as soon as I read the word, it was like a shot of energy went through me. And then I read a little more, and I researched some other people that were talking about it, and they were all talking about, oh, the whole point is to get into your upper chakras. And I thought, no, like the lower chakras are some kind of evil. And I thought, no, that's not right. Why do we have 7 chakras and just to use the top 3? You know, we're supposed to use all of them. So I began a comprehensive system.
When do you think you had your first vision? I feel like that's one of the guiding principles or guiding visions of your life, is having these visions.
Well, I think that vision of me sitting in lotus position in a meditation with a book on my lap that had my name on it, that was my first vision. But I used to get visions going out into the wilderness and visions of the future. And I lived on top of this mountain off the grid and all by myself, and I could see the highway from the top of the mountain. I could see the cars coming up the highway, and I thought, you know, I can't stay on this mountain forever because the world is just going to get more and more populated and more technological, and I got to go down off the mountain and do something about that to save this nature. And so I came down off the mountain, and I went back to school, and I had my children, and did my private therapy practice for a long time. I was a psychotherapist for 20 years, and then I took it to the road teaching and training others in my practices.
How did you get into isolation in the first place on the mountain?
Oh,
was that for your wilderness landscape journey?
Had a little bit of land up there, and he said, "Oh, I'll give you 5 acres of land if you want." It was in the middle of nowhere. There was no road, no water, no electricity, no nothing. But I had a tent, and I put it up there, and I decided, okay, I'm going to go live on that land and see what I can do. And it was one of the most glorious periods of my life. I was only up there for 2 months, but it was, you know, to get away from civilization and be immersed in nature was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had. Now, I don't know if at my age I would go back to do that again. You know, I was young and single and childless, and I could be free, and I could take my sleeping bag and sleep under this tree this night, and another tree another night. I'm a little old for that now, but it was really a very precious experience.
Wow, that's incredible. And when you have a vision or visions, how do you trust it? You know what I mean? Because sometimes visions can be very grand and even scary, and wow, is that really meant for me? Or, you know, am I seeing this right? Or, you know, do you have any doubts?
I think that's a great question, Jacky, because I think a lot of people get visions and they think they're true just because it came to them in a dream or a meditation or something, and they don't take the vision and then check it out with reality. So when I lived on the mountain, I got a vision of all the chakras. I was working with the elements, the earth, the water, collecting rain with little sponges on my feet, walking through the grass in the morning, having a fire every night, you know, watching the clouds come and go. Often on my mountaintop, I was above the clouds looking down. I could move the clouds with my will and create rainbows. It was really a glorious time of really sinking into the elements that are associated with the chakras. So I got this whole download about what the chakra system is, what it's for, how important it is. And then when I came down off the mountain, I moved to Berkeley, California, and I went to a school that was training people in doing psychic readings. And I realized that they were using the same system of chakras that I had seen. And so there was a validation from this school that everything I was seeing was kind of adding up. And then as more people were writing about chakras, I did more research and just comparing it to all sorts of systems, Jungian psychology, Reichian therapy, Alexandra technique, bioenergetics, many different somatic therapy techniques and psychotherapy techniques. And I was making a correlation between the chakra system and all of those. And, my schooling was in psychology. I went and trained as a clinical psychotherapist, got my master's in psychology and my doctorate in the mind-body connection.
I love how you describe, checking your vision with reality and validating it. Yeah, I'd love to talk about your teachings, some of the stuff you talk about, like the chakra. You describe chakra as energy centers that influence our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and each corresponding to a different aspect of human experience. Is that how would you describe chakra, and how is it
the word
misunderstood?
Chakra means wheel, and so it's a vortex, a spinning vortex of energy in the body. And I think of the chakras as existing where mind and body meet. And here's a way to look at it. We all have these devices we carry around, our cell phones, and that's a piece of hardware. And onto my cell phone, I have pictures and music and emails and all the things we have on our phones. That's the software. But when my battery goes dead, it's good for nothing. I can't access anything. So what it takes for the hardware and the software to connect is electricity going through the cell phone. Well, in the same way, the mind is the software, the body is the hardware, and what it takes for your mind and body to connect is the life force energy that I call charge. And so that's what makes you feel things, that's what makes you see things, that's what makes you think, that's what makes you hungry, that's what makes you tired. I mean, it's the life force going through you and how it goes through your system of chakras that make you who you are.
What do you think how is the chakra most misunderstood by people?
Well, I think people think of them like little circular clock faces that are on the front of your body, and that I can just twirl my hand and that's going to make your chakra spin in a different direction or something. And really, they are very deeply programmed beliefs and behaviors and feelings and experiences and memories and patterns and defenses that are all kind of wrapped up deeply into your nervous system and really deep into the core of who you are. In yoga, they talk about something called samskaras, which are the inherited, or they're the tendencies in the personality that are like very deep rooted. Like maybe you're a greedy person, maybe you're a scared person and you're scared of everything. Maybe you're a lonely person. These are the samskaras that you're here to work out in this lifetime.
I remember during Vipassana, they were telling about this. As you meditate, these come out onto the surface and they evaporate if you just have equanimity towards it.
Yeah. And meditation is a way to clear all of that stuff.
I love in your book, in your course, you break down the chakra one by one and going through all the practicalities of it and explaining how they work. And one thing you talk about, I remember in your video, is the rainbow bridge. Yeah, can you explain what the rainbow bridge is?
The rainbow bridge is the connection between heaven and earth. And I believe in our world today, really everywhere in the world, we have lost the connection of heaven and earth. We think heaven is something we go to after we die, and earth is something that we can treat like dirt and use at our disposal, and use up. But really, one of my favorite quotes is from my friend Neil Rogan, who says, "We don't need to raise hell to change the world. We just need to lower heaven." And so I believe that humans are here to learn how to create heaven on earth. We've been given a beautiful planet to do it with. You've traveled all over the world with your photography. I know you've seen a lot of the extreme beauty that the planet has, because I looked at your pictures. They're beautiful. So we've been given a beautiful planet, and we need to create a society that is heavenly, and by that I don't mean, that we're got angel wings and we're playing harps. I mean a society where we're alive and it's beautiful and we're happy and people feel empowered and there's creativity and color and light and love. That's heaven on earth. But the chakras each vibrate at a different frequency, and so they are associated with the colors of the rainbow. So the chakras going through the center of each person becomes your piece of the rainbow bridge. It goes through the center of you, Jacky, the center of everyone that's listening to this podcast. And each of us holds a piece of the rainbow bridge. And as we heal that, we are the most direct connection between heaven and earth. So we are mending the split between heaven and earth. We are healing that split as we work on our chakras.
Right. You mentioned about being fully alive. What does that mean to be fully alive?
Well, I think that we take it for granted that our life force has been shut down. You go to school and you're 6 years old, 7 years old, you're told to be very quiet and to hold still. And that's not natural for a 6-year-old. A boy should be climbing trees and throwing balls and making noise, So we learn to sit on our aliveness. We learn to contain and suppress our aliveness. And then we go through life just thinking that's normal because everybody else is doing it too. And we wonder why we don't feel so good anymore. And then we go to coffee and stimulants in order to feel more alive, or, car racing, or, whatever you do to try and feel more alive. But what we need to do is release the inhibitions on our aliveness. And I think it's not the meaning of life that we seek so much as we're seeking our aliveness. And once we have that, the meaning of life is obvious. When you're feeling fully alive, you don't go, what am I here for and what does life mean? You know it, you're living it, you're doing it.
Oh.
And so what the chakras handle is the life force. The life force is going through you, but how is that organized? How is that organized from source coming into you to the things you do and say and create in your life? The chakras are organizing all that energy.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah.
In fact, my definition of a chakra is they are organizational centers for the reception, the assimilation, the storage, and the expression of life force energy. So reception, we take it in, we see, we hear, we breathe breath in, we take in food, we take in love, we assimilate it, we kind of break down the food into vitamins and minerals and calories. We take the love and we assimilate it into, that means I'm okay. And then we store it. Maybe if we eat too much, we store it as fat. And then we express it. We, exercise, or we talk, or we create art, or we do something, then we spend that energy. So it's coming in all the time, but the chakras are organizing it on each of the different levels. They're organizing it on the earth plane. They're organizing it in the emotional sphere. They're organizing it in the sphere of activity and action, in the sphere of love and relationship, in the sphere of communication, vision, and consciousness itself.
Right. In your course, you talk about kind of being aware of the grounding, right? At the root, being the right to exist, and then looking for chakras out of balance. And one thing I thought really interesting is you mentioned, your finances are messy, then, the goddess won't visit, things are disorganized and not beautiful. And I found that really interesting because I didn't think of finances finances is like something to me intuitively feels far removed from chakras or spirituality. So it's really interesting that I use that as an example, but it makes sense, right? If your life is messy, then how do you create that kind of connection where noticing your finances are messy and connecting that to your chakras? I think that's really an interesting connection you made.
Well, the earth plane relates to the first chakra at the base of the spine. Right. It's the element of earth. And so it's everything to do with your health, your physical body, your home, your finances, your sense of safety and security in the world. That's all the first chakra realm, and that is your foundation. You know, if you've got your finances supporting you, you are free to then create what you want. If you have your health supporting you, you are free to operate in the world. You know, if your health fails, then that interrupts everything you're doing. You know,
yes.
If you get evicted from your apartment, then you've got to find a place to live before you can do anything. So you need to have your first chakra in order for the foundation of the building, you know, and if it's not grounded and not built with a good foundation, nothing else is going to be quite in balance. So we need to get all those mundane aspects of life squared away, you know, so that they're solid. And that's what it means to be, earth is to be solid.
Oh, that makes sense.
And grounded.
Yeah.
And that's the container. The container is your body. Now, inside your body, you have feelings, you have sensations, you have consciousness. And so that's the next chakra, the emotional realm. And that's a big chakra. You know, are we comfortable in our emotions? Some people don't even know what they feel. They're so shut down. And some people, oh, they're just so emotional and they're all over the place. They're very out of balance. Can we feel deeply and yet remain in balance, right? Because feeling is how we connect to each other. You wouldn't want to go through life without feeling. There would be no texture to your experience. So that's our desire, it's our sensuality, it's our sexuality, it's our first connecting to another person through the body, and that's the second chakra. Big realm.
Right. Yeah.
Once we get that squared away, we go to the third chakra. That is our solar plexus. It's our will, our power, our get it done. You know, how can I take the ideas in my head and bring them into manifestation in the world? How can I do all the things on my to-do list and do it well and make it happen? You know, we need to have our will.
Can we spend a little time talking about the second chakra a little bit?
Sure.
I would love to go for it maybe one by one with you if you can. Because I think every chakra, there's so much to unpack.
There is a lot.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. And for the second chakra, I really liked what you talk about distinguishing between our needs and desires and removing the guilt that binds them. Because guilt is the demon of the second chakra, right? And I think that's super powerful. And that involves like your materialistic needs and desires, but also like your, like you said, emotional and sexual, right? Like a lot of people feel guilty and ashamed of sexual desires. A lot of people feel can't hold two decisions and experiences at the same time. How do we resolve that inner conflict? I think there's something there to unpack too.
Yeah, well, let's look at what guilt does to the energy system. Guilt says, I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't want that. I shouldn't need this. I shouldn't have that sexual desire. I shouldn't, you know, people are so plagued with guilt. And it's like the second chakra element is water. Water wants to flow. Guilt is like a dam in the stream. It says water shouldn't flow here. And so you dam up the stream, and then we don't feel as alive anymore. We don't feel pleasure anymore, and we're not happy. We wonder why we don't feel good. You know, happy is feeling good. It's pretty simple. You know, when we get to the higher chakras, we talk about joy and bliss. But our first experience of happiness is simply feeling good. And when we feel good in our bodies and we are, you know, centrally happy, and that just means we're comfortable in our skin, we're comfortable in our clothes, we have food in our belly, we're not hungry, you know, it's simple things, then you are more ready to go on to other things. It's like when that is satisfied, then you can go on to the will.
Right. But how do we balance that? Because you talk about walking down the middle and having inner conflict. And also, sure, there are desires that we have, but we don't necessarily can act on them, right? Sometimes there are also restraint, and you know, you feel a certain way, but you know, it's not socially acceptable or to act a certain way, right? There's this gap in between of like what we want and how we actually act. How do you resolve that conflict?
Well, this is the conflict between the second chakra, which is your feelings and your desires, and the third chakra, which is actions.
Oh. Right.
So I could feel a desire for someone, but not act on it.
Right.
But I don't have to make myself wrong for having the feeling.
Okay.
I can say, oh, I feel really angry right now, but I don't have to get mad at somebody, or I don't have to yell at them or hurt them. I can just acknowledge it in myself. Oh, I feel angry. And why do I feel angry? I feel angry because I was hurt. And I feel angry because I don't like this. And what is a way that I can take action to change what I'm angry about instead of getting angry at someone? Why'd you do this to me? So anger is sort of a tool of the powerless when we haven't taken action. But
love that.
Desire is the fuel of the will. So think about doing something you should do and how strong your will is, and doing something you want to do. You have a much stronger will for that. So when desire is in harmony with the will is stronger. But we can't give in to all our desires. Otherwise, we would never get up in the morning, and we'd eat all the ice cream, and, we wouldn't get anything done, So we'd satisfy our desires, and then we go on to the will, which is third chakra.
Right. So you allow the water to flow, but you also contain it with the fire and keep it in balance, right?
When you contain the water, it becomes power.
Wow, that's super cool. Yeah. I love what you talked about in the third chakra, the ego, the right to act, and choosing versus have to, and also practice saying no. So there's also a level of restraint here, right? Of saying no, and I love how you define integrity, aligning our words, and commitment with appropriate action. I found this part super powerful, the value system, integrity.
It's interesting because when developmentally the third chakra in childhood begins to open when a child goes through what we call the terrible twos, and that's when they say me and no and I want it. They're very selfish at that time. And if that child's no was taken away from them, like they're punished for saying no, then they don't have their no going through life. And that's a very difficult struggle. I was actually one of those people. I have struggled with the word no all my life because I don't say it very easily. And often I'll say yes when I should have said no. And I get overextended and I do too much. And so it's a very important skill to have a healthy, grown-up adult no that isn't angry, that just says, no, this time isn't good for me. No, that's not going to work for me. No, can we try something else? It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just a setting of boundaries, but it is an act of power. And in that, we are choosing. Second chakra desire gives us the want. Do I want this or do I want that? Third chakra is making the choice and say, okay, I choose this and I'm going to take the steps to walk toward it. So you see how all the chakras beautifully build on each other. And if something is off in one, you don't have as much in the other.
Right. Would you say the root chakra is, it's the foundation of the infrastructure for everything above, right? So it's kind of like you take care of the needs one at a time.
That's right.
Oh, wow. I also love in this chakra you talk about defining your values. And one part I thought was really interesting is relaxing for power. I think that's something I personally struggle with. I'm always kind of intensely working and trying to work. But sometimes you can do less, sometimes more, right?
That's right. It's like if you can open to a greater power coming through you, you can accomplish with less effort. And I think in this society, we think we're supposed to try and push. And we get really exhausted from that. And then we exhaust our third chakra.
Yeah. This part I have conflicts with. And I'm trying to resolve it that, I, believe in, discipline, and there's all this hustle culture going on as well. I know there's to a certain extreme that's not healthy, but I do believe that I want to be driven. I want to be ambitious. I want to work on things I love. I want to self-actualize. I want to be really disciplined. And I struggle with sometimes I can understand conceptually that, less effort can do more sometimes and let the divine power come in and take care of things. But in reality, it's so hard to choose to not work and choose to relax. I even feel guilt and shame when I'm like relaxing and not working. I'm like, oh, how could I be watching TV right now? Or this is, I need to be working. Like my empire's not going to build itself. Like these toxic ideas come into my head. But how do I balancing how do I really let go?
Well, we want a balance there, because you don't want to just sit there and lay back on the couch and say, well, it's all going to happen and I don't have to do anything. Nothing will happen. You've got to do some things. You have to get up in the morning and you have to, do the work, but we don't have to do it from a great deal of effort. Now, in the chakras, I talk about how a chakra can become out of balance by becoming excessive or deficient, too much or too little. So an excessive third chakra can be excessive doing. They're doing all the time. I was one of those. I was one of those much of my life, kind of a workaholic, and I was doing all the time. And like you, if I was just sitting back with my feet up, I felt guilty. Like, oh, I should be doing something. I shouldn't be watching this movie or reading a book. I almost never read a novel. It was always, nonfiction books where I was improving my mind. And I got exhausted, and now interesting as I'm starting to look at retirement, it's like, oh, can I let myself just have a day off and not do anything? And I don't mean that I'm just going to sit there, but, can I go for a walk? Can I listen to music? Can I get out my art and make a painting, which I haven't done in 20 years, And I think that it's a balance, and it's very hard to know just where that balance is. But when the will is attached to purpose rather than ego, then we have a container. Like, what is your purpose in the world? What are you trying to do? You have a purpose in doing these podcasts, I'm sure. And from what I read about your life, you're very purpose-driven, But if we do it from ego, like, oh, I got to do this so everybody thinks I'm great, is that the right place? Is that the right place to come from? It's not about ego. It's not about, can I look good? It's about what really serves and what is my purpose and what is my purpose in life.
That's super powerful. I think a lot of people these days get attached to their titles or their status and accomplishments rather than what the actual thing is doing, and most importantly, why they're doing it. Yeah. I mean, this whole thing of letting go, and it's just, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it just feels so counter, right? Entrepreneurship is all about like go, go, go. But like you said, like doing for the right reason and knowing when to. Sometimes when you let go, it does more because, you have other people you work with, and sometimes you doing too much actually hurts them, right? And stuff like that. So this is a great lesson.
Always come back to the purpose.
Yes. I love it.
I think of power, an example I use is a sailboat. A sailboat wants to sail across the lake from one side to the other. You don't have control over how the wind blows that day. The wind might blow north, the wind might blow south. But the sail, you can move into the wind and you can go anywhere you want, no matter how the wind is blowing, if you know how to sail. But that sail has to be hitched to the pole, the mast of the boat. And that's your purpose, the mast. That doesn't move. The sail moves back and forth according to what's happening that day, but the mast never moves. And that is your purpose.
Beautiful. And I think the next chakra 4, the heart, is also very interesting. It's because I feel like a lot of times when I want to do so much, and I feel like it's tied to this purpose, like you mentioned, and it's all coming out of love, right? You love what you're doing. I love what I'm doing. Like people who are really doing a lot of things. That's why I find it so hard to retire, because when you just love what you do and it's core to who you are, it doesn't even feel like work. It's just natural. But coming back to the heart and the source of it all, the love, and the heart is also the connection between the upper and the lower chakra. And I find that really interesting. What is the distinguish between the lower and the upper, and why do you need a heart to kind of connect them?
Well, the symbol of the heart is 2 intersecting triangles. And one is pointing downward, pointing down toward the earth, and one is pointing upward, pointing up towards spirit. But they are perfectly balanced in the heart. So I think of the heart as the great integrator. It integrates above and below, self and other, inside, outside, masculine, feminine, light and dark, spirit and matter. So I think of it as the great integrator. And that is why when we have our hearts hurt, we get rejected by a partner or we lose someone we love, we disintegrate. We fall apart.
Right.
Because it is the integrating force. Integration pulls things back into the unity that they really are and pulls us back into our wholeness, integrating mind and body.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of chakras a lot of it is the duality into the oneness, right?
Yeah, and we go more into the oneness as we go up. In the body, we're very individual. I'm in this body and I have been all my life. You're in your body. I'm here in California, you're in Taiwan. That's very individual, but we can share ideas. We can share spirit. We can share emotions. We might feel the same way about something. So as we go up the chakras, it becomes more universal. As we go down, it becomes more individual.
Oh, that's fascinating. And speaking of, sharing ideas, like the next chakra, the throat, the communication, creativity, resonance, purification, self-expression to the outer world. And I really like what you talk about balancing self-expression with listening. I think that's a big challenge for a lot of people. Yeah.
I say that's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we do twice as much listening as we do talking.
I love it. Yeah. And I love also how you talk about dancing is a great way to open the throat.
Well, any kind of creative expression. I think of creativity here in the throat because that is our artistic expression, whether we sing or dance or paint or write or cook or whatever your creative expression. I think of that as an expression, and the throat expresses what's inside. The interesting thing about the throat, it is the only place where the inside comes out. So I don't know what you're thinking or feeling unless you tell me. And then when you tell me what's going on inside of you and you share that, that's where your inside comes out. Right. Or you share your thoughts or, your ideas. So we get very scared to share what's inside because maybe somebody won't understand or maybe they will criticize it or maybe they'll make us wrong. And then we block up the throat chakra and we don't share. And then our creativity goes down and our ability to express our truth goes down. And the throat chakra is about resonance, how waves resonate. That's how we find harmony, right? How sound waves resonate together. And so when we block that, we become out of resonance, out of phase with our life, right? And then things just don't work very well. We don't find that harmony.
I love what you said about when you say something, communication, make sure it's what you're going to say is true, is kind, is necessary, or timely. And either 3 of them have to be true for it to be worth saying. I think that's beautiful.
Right. That's right. Yeah, occasionally it might not be true, but it's necessary, it's timely, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful rule. I'm definitely going to adopt that. And I like how you connect this chakra of truth. Because the truth can sometimes be very conflicted, right? You may feel this way, but it comes with this I love you, but I don't like you very much sometimes. How you communicate your feelings, needs, and requests. I feel like you broke this down in the observation, first of all. I feel like you broke this down really well. And yeah, I think if you can't speak your truth, a lot of times people are they have conflicting ideas, but they can't say it or they don't say it. Especially, I think, in Eastern culture or society, people are more kind of closed off and suppressed with their thoughts or more scared to express themselves. Sometimes that gets stuck and it's stuck right here, right? You feel it right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we don't even know our truth. And the fact is, truth is not black or white. It's a little bit of this. Like you say, I love you, but I need some space right now.
Right.
I want to work harder, but I want to relax. I want to, make more money, but I want to take a vacation. We're full of conflict. And the truth is really both of those. And we can only arrive at the truth by honoring both sides of a conflict. In the yoga language of Sanskrit, the word for truth is satya. And satya means just what is. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's just what is. You know, the way you record something and it records all the noise that's there. It's just what is. You know, the recorder doesn't say, is this good or bad? It just records what is. And the truth is just, it's what is. And we start with that.
Yeah, so like from the ground up, the chakra, you go from gravity, polarity, combustion, equilibrium to harmony, right? This is the harmony chakra.
That's right.
Ah, it's beautiful. It's so cool how they are interconnected, and yeah, I feel like it just makes my psyche or everything makes so much more sense in my life when you go through the chakra one by one.
Yeah. You know, I describe the chakras as a map for navigating your life journey. You know, if you were going to go from Taiwan to Hong Kong, you need a map. You know, otherwise you don't know where to turn and what road to take. Now, the map doesn't say you have to go to Hong Kong. The map doesn't say you have to go to India. It doesn't say where you have to go. It just says, if you want to go here, this is how you get there. And maybe you take this route, maybe you take that. Well, the chakras are a map to navigate through life, and they're a formula for wholeness. So if you address your life on each one of the chakras and you use that, it's like a recipe. It's a formula that says you will be whole if you address your spirit and your vision and your communication and your love and your power and your feelings and your body. Those are, you know, all those levels give you a template for wholeness.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And they give our society a template for wholeness. You know, we want a society that's grounded in truth. We want a society where we love life. We want a society where people are empowered, where they feel good, where they're healthy, where the earth is healthy, where we have vision and we have spiritual guidance. We want a society that has all the chakras.
Right. And, you know, going on to the next chakra, intuition and imagination.
Chakra 6, Ajna chakra, which means to perceive and to command. And it's often thought of as the command center, because that's where Shiva sends the lightning bolts out from his third eye. And here our principle is radiance, the radiant light that is in everything. And we want to be able to see clearly. And one thing to see clearly is get out of the center of the picture. It's not about you, you know? Get a little distance and see clearly. Get some perspective. And to really calm your mind and get rid of the pictures you already have of how you think it should be, so you can see how it really is. You know, just like the word satya is just what is, seeing is like a camera, and the camera just takes a picture of whatever is there. It doesn't edit out the little garbage in the corner. You know, it just, if that's there, it takes a picture of it. So to see clearly, we need to be able to see what is without judgment, without qualification. Then we can decide what to do with it.
Yeah, I loved your emphasis on beauty too. I think beauty is such a appreciated philosophy of life. People feel like it's excess or
I think it's underappreciated spiritual value. And beauty nourishes the soul. Yes. You know, you've been to many beautiful places in the world, you know, like being in Yosemite, you know, to look upon, you know, El Capitan and the sunset is, it's like awe-inspiring. It fills the soul with beauty. And beauty tells us we're very close to the divine.
Okay, can you unpack that a little bit?
Well, everything the divine creates has a beauty. You know, a forest is beautiful. Yes. You know, how does that happen? That every part of the forest is beautiful. The mountains are beautiful. The ocean is beautiful. Even the cities have a beauty to them. Even if they're dirty and noisy, there's a strange beauty to the fact that all these people live together and live peacefully together and do the business of life. That's beautiful. So beauty is the divine signature.
Oh, I love that. When I looked at, sometimes when I look at my life purpose, and one of them I put is beauty, and I feel like that's aesthetic beauty, and that's not like just a pure pursuit of aesthetics or art, and it's also like the beauty in relationships, in nature, in the way things unfold, and the beauty in love and grief and sadness, and I just feel like beauty is such an underrated. The closer we are to nature, the closer we are to the divine. I totally agree with what you said. And a lot of times people just forget to going back to going back to nature. You kind of, when you go back to nature, you just feel like it's where you're supposed to be. And then the beauty is, yeah, like you said, like awe-inspiring. But I just think beauty is such an underappreciated, undervalued word, both, yeah, like you said, spiritually and everything. I mean, what is life's purpose?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I say the same thing all the time.
Really?
And I think what's happened in the world with the loss of the feminine, you know, that women have lost their power. Women like to create beauty, you know. Men like to create function. They want to make it work. But they don't often care so much if they make it beautiful while they're doing it. Women, you know, you give them a home, they make it beautiful. You give them some food, they make a beautiful meal. So I think to have beauty in our world is really important. And I think that's what we lost when we suppressed the feminine.
Yeah, I love that. We can touch a bit more on the She-Rise stuff. I think that's also really interesting. But before that, we can go through the last chakra, the crown, and the connection to the divine and source of meaning. Is the crown where the charge comes from, you would say? Or is it other way around?
I think the charge comes from everywhere.
Oh, okay.
It comes from what you see, and it comes from what you hear. You could say something to me that might get me all charged up, you know? Like you could have your partner say, your lover say something to you, and all of a sudden you got a lot of charge because they criticize you. You know, so charge comes from anything. But it's the basic life force. But in the crown chakra, it's the ability to perceive and witness that charge. And say, who is in here? And how do you know? Like, who's living inside you, Jacky? Who's thinking your thoughts? Who's deciding what you're going to do today? Who's feeling your feelings? What are you doing that with? You're doing that with your consciousness. And when you start to realize, oh, there's a consciousness operating in here that can feel my body and that can see the world and that can listen to music and that can love my partner. And, you know, that's a consciousness that's operating. You realize the whole world is consciousness. And the brain didn't make consciousness. It's like a device to receive consciousness. Just like my phone didn't make consciousness, but it can receive it. You know, it can receive a message. It didn't make the message.
Right.
So we are living in a field of consciousness, and our purpose is to open up that consciousness as wide as possible. And that is taking our, you know, the facet of consciousness that we have some will over is our attention, right? That's what we do with our consciousness. You put your attention on this, and that is what you download. You know, it's like going to your browser and the internet and you type something in. That's what the attention is going to go to, that big field of the internet, and then it's going to download that particular thing, right? Because the internet's too big to look at it all at once. Well, consciousness is so big, but when we take it off the particular and we just empty our mind, which is what we do in meditation, then we develop the capacity to embrace more of it, because you can't embrace all of it when you're hanging on to this piece and that piece. So it's about emptying out to a state of consciousness that can hold it all. And that's what we do in meditation.
Yeah, I find it really interesting about the conscious, subconscious, and superconsciousness. I've actually never heard of the word superconsciousness before until I read your work, and I was like, wow, that's super cool.
Sri Aurobindo first came up with that. He was a saint in India, and he was political, and he got arrested and put in jail. And while he was in jail, he did a lot of meditation, and he discovered the superconscious realm, which is a heightened state of consciousness that is way beyond the state of ordinary consciousness that we're in.
Wow. Have you practiced this before as well?
Well, I have tapped into it from time to time. Yeah. Wow.
Is that kind of when you describe the download, is that kind of state?
Well, in high states of meditation and altered states, they can come through various techniques. And, you know, I've tapped into that superconscious realm enough to say, oh, that's what it is. But I can't live there in my day-to-day life. Right. It's too much. I mean, in my day-to-day life, I do have to concentrate on one thing here and one thing here. You know, I can't be in this infinite realm and still get my emails written, you know?
Yes. I love that.
But I think of the meditation sort of like taking a shower. You know, you don't want to go out into your day with all the smells of yesterday. You know, you want a fresh, clean. And it feels good after you take a shower. You feel fresh and renewed. Well, it feels good after emptying your thoughts and making room for new ones to come in.
Yeah, and you also mentioned when in doubt, you can always ground first. Because if you're looking at all the 7 chakras, and you said the general rule is steal from the rich and give to the poor.
So when we have excess chakras, that's when we're doing too much. We're too focused on that chakra. And we take from that chakra and give to the chakras that are weaker and need attention. So if you're very good at visualizing, you might, but yet you have some problems in your body, you can visualize healing light in your feet or your knees or, you know, whatever part is hurting. You take what's strong and you give it to what is weak.
Yeah.
Or if you're comfortable in your body, you can use the yoga practices to access different chakras. Or if you're very verbal, you can do writing and you can write about it. You know, so there's what I love about the chakra system is it's so multidimensional, and there's so many ways in. You can get in through color and through sound and through touch and through feeling and through action and, you know, thoughts and beliefs. There's so many different ways to access your chakras because it's so multidimensional.
What would you say was the easiest way for someone who's just completely new to all these concepts?
Well, the simplest practice that I start off with in all my workshops is the practice of sitting up straight and finding your core by, close your eyes and imagine sending your roots down out of the base of your spine, down into the earth. Press your tailbone a little bit toward the back of your seat and see how that activates your lower spine. And open the roots and send them down, anchoring down into the earth, just like a plant has to root down into the earth. And at the same time that you send your roots down from the base of your spine, you lift your crown up toward the heavens. And what that does is it lengthens your spine. You push the crown up and the roots down, you get longer, and like a string with beads on the string, all the beads come into alignment. And that is the jewels of the chakras. And so when we find that center core, I think of it as the I that lives inside, not the I we see from, but the I that we are, the self. And you can just say the word I inside and imagine, in English we make an I with a long straight line. That's the I. And so that is where all the chakras are aligned. And when they're aligned, you are the rainbow bridge. You are the connection between heaven and earth. You have the formula for wholeness. You're firing on all the levels at once. And that's what it means to be a whole human being, integrated on each of the 7 chakras. So just that simple practice of sending your roots down and lifting your crown up and finding the center line begins to bring your chakras into alignment. And I call that the core. That's the core of you. And the more you're in the core, the more you become who you are, the easier everything is, the more things come into balance. And the core is where it happens. As I've been teaching all these years, more and more I just say, yep, the core is where it's at.
Wow. Going back to the core is very important. And it takes a lot of work to find that proper alignment, right? Mm-hmm. So after you come back to the core, you then kind of check through your chakras and kind of balance the charge a little bit, right?
Practices. After you come back to the core, once you find the core, I say imagine a little ball of light. And as you inhale, that ball of light rises up the core, chakra by chakra, all the way up to the crown. And you hold your breath just a moment in the crown. And then as you exhale, that little ball of light comes down the core, all the way down to the root. You can just let your breath out nice and slow. And then it pushes into the ground. We push down to rise up. You know, if you're going to jump, you push your feet into the floor. So we push into the earth to rise up. Inhale again and bring that up the core. And that little ball of light becomes like something that cleans the core. It gets the garbage out of the way. So breathing in, and you can even count 7 little inhales. As you breathe in, 1 chakra at a time, and then as you breathe out, 7 little exhales. And you do that a few times, and you start to feel very centered.
Wow. That's powerful. So do you also visualize it?
And I have many, many more practices where that came from. That's what's in the course, but that's a very simple practice to start with. Come into your center and your alignment and to activate your own core.
Yeah, I feel a lot more grounded right now.
We only did it for a couple minutes.
Yeah, wow, okay. And when you do it, are you also visualizing kind of the chakra one by one through the different body parts?
If you can. You know, first I say just start with the breath and visualize the core itself. Then you can start to think about the colors and the location and feel that, you know, so you're red and orange and yellow and green and blue and indigo and violet. You can think about the colors, but first just start with the breath.
How does that connect to the chakra connect to our body, physiological and emotional functions? Because right now I feel completely relaxed and grounded. And is there some neuroscientific stuff going on that's triggering, or how does that work?
Well, you know, the breath where you take 7 little sips of breath in and 7 little exhales, that's called a krama, and that means step. And what it does is it's slowing the breath down, which is starting to regulate your nervous system. And so when your nervous system is more regulated, you feel more calm, you have less cortisol and stress hormones coming into your bloodstream, your mind gets clearer, you know, and everything settles down, you know, your heart comes into coherence, and various physiological processes come into harmony.
Oh, it's like you're activating your parasympathetic system, right? Nervous system.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
And your parasympathetic system is the one that brings you down to calming. Your sympathetic is the one that's arousing. And sometimes we want to bring the sympathetic system up. Sometimes you need to wake up. You have that place in the afternoon where you feel sleepy and you want to wake up, and so you can do a little more breathing. I have some more vigorous breathing practices that I do for waking up and bringing charge into your body.
Oh, interesting. So mastering these different breath works and different grounding techniques, people can then really kind of alleviate a lot of the stress, anxiety, emotional, can have more control over their emotional patterns, right? How do your students actually feel, or what have you heard from your students once they practice this long enough? How does that actually affect their stress, daily lives?
Oh, I see amazing changes in my students, and they come back for more and more, and they say it transforms them, it transforms their life. And it depends on what course they took. Maybe they're manifesting because they took the top down through the chakras. That's the manifestation course. Or maybe they're liberating and they got liberated from something. And, you know, sometimes they lose weight, or they just feel they sit up straighter, or, you know, their relationships go better. It depends on what their problem is, but it tends to heal. But it takes time. And it's also a process of deep self-discovery. It's like there's treasure in here, and you want to mine the treasure. And the more we look at our chakras, the more we get into the deep core of who we are, the more we become who we are. The more we are a shining light, the more we are healthy, the more alive we feel, the more fun life is, the deeper we go into the mystery. And of course, the mystery is that which keeps on going. You can never come to the end of the mystery. It just keeps unfolding more and more and greater and greater. And for me, working with the chakra system all my life just keeps getting better and better.
How has it, how has your life gotten better because of the chakra? Can we unpack that a little bit too? I guess for different stages of your life, how has the chakra helped you?
I feel really satisfied with my life. I feel like I've been really blessed. I don't know how to say it gets better. I'm more emotionally centered than I was, decades ago. I have a good relationship. I have a home and community I love. I have friends. I have, the things that come to me in life, the opportunities, they just get better and better. It gets more fun. It gets, less problems in my way. And I feel like now in my 70s, I'm sailing.
Yeah. What have been some of the bigger challenges or struggles you had through your life, and how has maybe the chakra played a part in that and overcoming and growing from it?
Yeah, I would say my biggest challenge was 2 different times I had Lyme disease. I don't know if in Asia you know what Lyme disease is, but you get it from a tick bite, and then it goes into your system and it creates incredible pain and lots and lots of problems. And the first time it was 5 years and they didn't know what was wrong with me before they found a diagnosis. So I was really, really suffering. And I had 4 kids at home, and I was in graduate school, and my book was out, and I was running the Church of All Worlds, and I was doing a lot of things, and it was a crazy time, and I wasn't well. But using all the tricks of the trade and the chakras and working out my own material and my own history, I had to do my own healing, of course, helped me get through that, and now I'm pretty good most of the time.
Wow. When you're not well like that, it really gets in the way of your chakras, the alignment, right? So when you have an issue like that, how do you resolve that?
Well, when you're not well, I would say it occupies your attention. Like when you're in pain, it's hard to forget about the pain, If you've ever really hurt yourself and you've been in pain, it's just there and you're trying to do something else, and then it grabs your attention. But pain is grabbing your attention because that's where you need to pay attention. Whether it's emotional pain or physical pain, that's where some kind of healing needs to take place. And some of it for me is I was very outer focused and I didn't pay attention to my inner world. And so when I had Lyme disease, I really had to come into my inner world and come home to myself.
What does it mean to come home to yourself?
Well, I talk about the inside of the self as being the inner temple, right? So, you might go to a temple, a Buddhist temple or something, and it's a very special place. You have an inner temple, and it has 7 chakras, and like 7 stories, 7 floors, each one with a sacred chamber. To come home to yourself is to be really who you are in the most natural, healthy, balanced way you can. It's like to rest in contentment, I'm here, it fits. I'm me. I'm not trying to be something else. I'm not trying to please. I'm just home in myself. It's enough. And it's a wonderful feeling. And, I've even taken, in classes so often you start with the chanting of the word Om, right?
Yeah.
I start chanting with the word home, H-O-M-E.
Oh,
home.
I love
and
that.
to think about coming home to yourself, to coming home to the planet, to, this planet that we share is our collective home, and to everything that home means. So I just chant, home.
Wow.
And our planet is a very beautiful home.
Yeah. Like you said, we treat it like dirt.
We totally treat like dirt.
Wow. I love the concept of charge as well. This is new to me, charge. And, people can be undercharged, overcharged. And one thing I ponder when I read about charge is, do we ever want to stretch our comfort zone for our charge to grow more powerful? Right? Is there a point of overcharging bit by bit so that our capacity becomes larger and larger over time as we grow as a person in that way? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, we often don't go to a place we say, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. I wouldn't be comfortable speaking in front of an audience. I wouldn't be comfortable dancing. I wouldn't be comfortable confronting this person. We all have these places where we don't feel comfortable. What we're really saying is we can't handle the charge that would happen if we were in front of an audience, or if we were singing, or if we were dancing. There's a charge with it. So yes, we want to learn to expand so we can tolerate and have more charge, because that's more aliveness, right? The more alive you are, the better you feel. But when that charge is pushing up against the blocks, it's very uncomfortable. That's what's uncomfortable. Oh, I want to say something, but my throat is all tied up in knots and I can't say it, and it's very uncomfortable. So what we want to do is clear the blocks so that we can have all that charge and still be comfortable. But I say it's not about stepping over your comfort zone, because when you do that, you're more uncomfortable. It is about expanding the comfort zone so you have more room, but you're still comfortable.
And how do you expand instead of step over? I think that's a very, it's a nuance there.
Yeah, you go right to the edge of it. So when I'm working with a client, for example, and I say, well, here's this exercise we could do. And they go, oh, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. So I go, so what is uncomfortable? Well, I don't know. What do you mean? Well, what do you feel in your body? Oh, I feel, a fluttering in my stomach. I feel my throat tighten. I feel myself holding my breath. I feel my palms getting sweaty. Then we start to go right to the comfort zone, and that's where the energy is pushing up against the block. So how do you dissolve the block? You say, so how am I blocking that energy? I'm blocking it by making a fist or clenching my teeth or holding my breath. So I have people really bring that to their consciousness by doing it even more, like tighten your fists even more. And that tends to complete it. And then if you gradually dissolve that, then the energy starts to come through and you're still comfortable.
Oh.
It's a very nuanced technique, but it's really finding whether energy is pushing up against, exaggerating that so it clears, and then the energy is free.
So one can become more and more, have more capacity for charge the more they push that edge.
The more they go to really witness what is going on at their edge. Not to jump over it, but to witness and honor what is going on at that edge. Because that's where you get, oh, I can't speak because my father yelled at me when I used to be a kid, and all of a sudden the tears come and you unpack that. Or, I'm holding my breath because my heart is scared. You find those pieces of gold, the treasure, the jewels of the psyche that are part of your soul that make you whole.
Yeah, I love that.
And if you jump over the comfort zone, you miss that.
Oh, yeah, and you can just jump into, you can wreck yourself, right? Just recklessly jumping through.
I use an analogy of yoga. If you have a beginning yoga student and you say, bend over and touch your toes, they probably can't do it. And if the teacher said, well, I'm going to just push you all the way down there, that would hurt. But if you go right to the edge of what you can do and you breathe, it starts to soften a little bit. And that day you go 1 inch farther. And the next day you go another little bit further and another little bit, until one day you can touch your toes and you're comfortable. You've expanded your comfort zone.
Yeah. I want to talk quickly about the two currents that you talk about. And
very important.
I know, it's fascinating. And, building heaven on earth, that downward manifestation current. Can we talk about a little bit about the balance? I know it's, when your chakras are balanced, you need both to go flowing freely. But I think you have emphasized the downward flow, if I remember correctly. What is the balance and what is the focus, and how do you come up with this system?
Yeah, my book, Creating on Purpose, is about taking your highest consciousness that we get to on the liberating current, your crown, your connection, your divine, instructions, whatever you want to call it, and bringing that into a vision. What's the vision of what you want to create? And then you begin to talk about that vision. If the vision is only in your head, how are you going to do it? Let's say you want to build a house. Well, you can imagine the house you want to build. Then you have to go to an architect and tell them, here's the house I want to build. And so you communicate. That's your throat chakra. Then you have to find the right people to do it with. You need an architect, and you need a builder, and you need maybe a bank to loan you money to build the house. And, you need all of these people. You need relationships. That's your heart. And then there's things you need to do to build the house. You need to take a hammer and a nail, and you need to put the boards together. And so that's your action. And by moving things together, that gets you in the flow. That's your second chakra until you manifest it. So coming down the chakras, you take an idea and step by step, you bring it down into reality. Now, the thing about that is that when you go from the infinite realm of emptiness into reality, you hit these layers of density. And it's sort of like a distant meteor coming from outer space. It hits the atmosphere, and then it hits the ocean. And, each one, there's a level of resistance. So when people go to manifest, they go, well, I can see it, but I don't know how to talk about it. Or I talk about it, but I don't know who to do it with. Or I have the people, but I don't know what to do. I don't have a plan, So there's resistance as you go down, and the process of manifestation is clearing that resistance. And when you clear the resistance, gravity takes over and things naturally want to come down to earth. And so my workshop on the manifestation current is about clearing resistance in each chakra.
I have friends who do a lot of meditation and tell me they have these breakthroughs where they feel their chakras open up one by one. I'm like, whoa, and then they're just in a different like life force. They have a different charge, and they're just a different person.
They're dissolving their blocks. Yeah, wow, and then the life force can move freely. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
So you really did your homework to learn about all the things I've written about,
Yeah.
And I think, we liberate to get free of our negative thoughts and our bad habits and our blockages. Once we get free, there's been a lot of movement in the spiritual world to go up, but not much to go down. And so now it's time to take it back and change the world for the better.
Oh, interesting. So you think there needs to be more downwards movement, right? Taking more down to the earth, bringing heaven to earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read you wrote about the difference between being love and being in love also.
Well, I wrote about having an object of love versus just being love. So, we can say, well, I love this person and I don't love that person. That's an object. I want you, but I don't want you. That's more of a second chakra love, and that's okay. We don't love everyone equally, but in the heart, it is just a radiating love. And so you can feel that for anyone that comes across your path. And you feel that love for the person, in the grocery store that is, ringing up your groceries. You can feel that love for someone on the street. You can feel that love for someone that's suffering. And you can feel that connection that this is all part of humanity together. And we hold them with compassion.
Would you say that's your definition of love? Holding ourselves with compassion, others?
Oh, the definition of love, oh my goodness. Is seeing the beauty and perfection in everything the way it is. Happiness is feeling good. Joy is serving something greater than yourself. And bliss is union with everything.
Union with everything. I love that. Wow. I love that.
So happiness is sort of like your lower chakras. Joy is your heart chakra. And bliss is your crown chakra.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Okay.
But they're all different states of happiness.
Yeah. I love what you said about it's not just about ourselves also when we reach wholeness. And a lot of times I feel like it's the act of helping others that where we actually feel whole.
That's so true. And I think we are we've been taught in society just to be selfish, and to get our own. And it's about, competing and getting as much as you can. And, it doesn't make us happy to do that. And really we have a joy when we are helping others.
Yeah, amazing. How would you like to be remembered?
Some people have called me a prophet for our time. And so I'd love to be remembered as that, but as a visionary who loved and who stood for possibilities that people didn't believe were possible and made them possible.
Wow, I love that.
Person who held open the door of possibilities for people to walk through and become more than they ever thought was possible.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
And this only works in English, but the word impossible actually says I'm possible.
Have you had any experiences in your life where you felt that way?
Where I felt like something was impossible?
Yeah, and then eventually became possible.
Good question. I just don't believe anything's impossible. I just don't.
It's not in your dictionary.
Yeah, I don't stop at that.
Oh, I love that.
I believe anything's possible.
Yeah. The prophet of our time, that's really beautiful
I
too.
don't think it's possible for me to spread my arms and fly to the moon. It's not a crazy, but I believe that if you can dream it, you can create it. If you can imagine it. Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. So we need to be able to imagine to create.
Yeah, they say creativity is applied imagination with action.
That's right. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And worry is a lack of imagination.
Worry?
Yeah.
How do you let go of your worries? Is that not through meditation? Because it's inevitable, right?
I try to take it to the bigger picture. Like right now I'm thinking, when you ask that question, I go, so what do I worry about these days? I don't worry about myself very much, but I worry about the world. I worry about the planet and climate change and authoritarianism and, war, and I worry about things like that. And I try to hold it in a bigger perspective that we are on an evolutionary journey. And if those things happen, it's the lack of imagination. And it's part of the path to create a more whole and just and beautiful world that we know in our hearts is possible. We have to hold that vision and create it every day.
Yes. I love it.
I think Mother Teresa said, we don't have to do great things, we do small things with great love.
I want to share with you when I first got into open my eyes to spirituality, it's through Alan Watts, some of his books. Yeah, and I feel like you guys have a little bit of similarity where you combine the East and the West, into something that is whole for everyone. And had a question there if you had your favorite books or favorite inspirations or anything that changed your life the most. For me, spiritually, it was Alan Watts, and I find that similarity between you guys and your work. So I think that's really beautiful. But I just want to mention that and segue into hey, what is that inspiration and for you?
I think for me it was Carl Jung.
Yeah.
The psychotherapist, because he brought in the masculine and the feminine, he brought in the light and the shadow, he brought in the concept of the soul. I think that, as a psychology major, it wasn't Freud, it wasn't anything else I studied, but Carl Jung really sang to my soul as really having a depth. I mean, they call it depth psychology. So, and I think Teilhard de Chardin, who was an evolutionary biologist, or actually a paleontologist, but he had a vision of the world going toward the omega point and, evolving, and that was very beautiful for me. Leonard Schlein wrote a book, The Alphabet versus the Goddess, and showed how we came through society, left brain, right brain, and where we lost the feminine, we became more violent. That whole journey through history opened my eyes a lot. I love history. Those are some of my books. Eric Jant's The Self-Organizing Universe is all about how the universe evolves. I love evolution. I'm part of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle and Leaders Council, and we meet every week. And in fact, I'm missing my meeting right now.
Oh, no way. Oh,
that's okay. I go every week. Evolutionary leaders in the world that are trying to make this world a better place, and it gives me a lot of joy to be in those conversations.
Yeah, you're creating huge impact on the world. It's amazing to see the work you've done and the people you impacted, and for your teachings, your classes, your books, your videos.
Well, thank you.
and the course you're about to come out with Press Play. Do you want to tell us more? Anything we haven't talked about? The course that you're doing? I went to the course myself. I think it's amazing. I learned so much from it. But anything you want to add?
Well, the course goes into more detail of all the things we've talked about here, the psychology of the chakras, the developmental stages of each chakra, and how they get wounded and how that shows up in your life and what to do about it. The yoga that goes with the chakras. So there's a whole section on yoga that is, so now that you've done this understanding of what the chakras mean and what their psychology is, how do you address those wounds? What are the practices? So it's full of different practices that we can do. And so I call it the architecture of the soul. And we want to make that architecture as healthy as possible.
And would you say this course will be, great for anyone, or people who are new to spirituality, people who are seasoned, advanced yoga practitioners, yogis, or anyone across the spectrum can find this?
I think anyone, because I have a unique perspective. So even people that have studied the chakras from other teachers, they'll find something new from the way I present it. And if you're new, you don't even have to have a spiritual framework. It doesn't have to be a spiritual framework. It's life. It's just life. Yeah. And how to make your life better. So you can do the practices, and the proof is in the pudding, as we say. It's like when you do the practices, you experience the benefit. Mm-hmm. And you have this lens of the chakra system through which to look at your world and make your world whole. Make your world whole and healthy and functioning.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it.
You have the map, but you have to take the journey. I can't take the journey for you. I can only give you the map.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like a lot of different themes we talk about today is going from duality to oneness. So it's just very beautiful. Yes. Yeah. How would you say your chakra system is different from maybe other teachings, and what's unique about your system? And you're very original, right? What do you think is most unique about it?
Well, several things. One is that I put it onto the scheme of developmental stages of childhood in a way that nobody else had done. Yeah. And the diagnosis of excess and deficiency is not just is a chakra open or closed, but is it too much or too little? How they get out of balance. I think another thing is my emphasis on wholeness and grounding rather than just trying to get up to the crown chakra. I don't think that is the goal, to get to the crown chakra. I think it's to get to the crown chakra and then integrate it with all the other chakras to become whole. So it's like I say, a formula for wholeness. And so I think that stress on each one of the chakras being equal is, I know even when I first came out with Wheels of Life and I said that, the standard teaching is of the chakras, people said, oh no, she doesn't understand what she's talking about. It's not about grounding, it's about getting up into your head. And time has proved me right, and that when you get grounded, then you come home and then it all happens.
Yeah, I love it. Maybe last question, and I would say is, what would you put on the moon if you could?
Well, I would put a big sign and say, welcome, you got here. Now that you got here, you can go anywhere.
Oh, that's so good.
Welcome to the rest of the universe.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do a quick summary of some of the key points we talk about, and then the rest of the time, anything you want to add. People can find the course link in the show notes. Today we talk a lot about the mind, body, about the battery. I love the analogy you had about the phone, the software, hardware, but without battery, you can't do anything. And,
and then you have to charge it.
Yeah,
right? You have to
exactly.
charge the phone before it's good for anything. So when we have more charge, then we can connect more of the mind and body.
Yeah, you talk about the battery, you talk about lowering heaven, you talk about what it means to be fully alive, and you shared the really clear definition of a chakra, this architecture of the map of the soul. And, I love when we talk about anger, right? Also, and I was like, okay, I'm so driven, I need to focus, I need to work, but also you can kind of, with the second chakra, you can kind of, anger is a tool to power this. And when you have the will, desire, then you can find the harmony. Yeah, and then I love how the focus is back to the purpose, the meaning, right, rather than the ego. So coming back to the purpose, like the power sailboat analogy you mentioned, and coming back to the heart, the great integrator, and holding truths on both sides of the conflict, and this complete template you have of wholeness, formula for being whole, and coming back up here to seeing clearly, calming your mind, not about you. And we talk about beauty as well. Beauty is the nourishment of the soul and the source of divinity, and how the attention is where our conscious, subconscious, super consciousness is. And when we go through pain, even though it's beautiful, it does also take away from our attention. But that's also a beautiful process for us to grow, to stretch our comfort zone, to stretch to the edge of our comfort zone, being uncomfortable, to going right to the edge. Like yoga, you just kind of push a little bit at a time, expanding that zone and coming back to the source of love, the love of power, to the power of love, and the future of the planet, of becoming adulthood of a planet, of us going to a new age and becoming more whole. So I feel like the work you've done, the stuff we talked about today, is deeply, deeply inspiring. I'm sure not just to me, but so many people around the world. And it's very practical guidance, very practical advice, very practical philosophy. We even talk about, how do you communicate, right? The 4 rules that we talked about. How do you communicate something clearly and speaking your truth? I just feel like everything is so grounded and applicable, and very inspirational, and also very spiritual. So after going through the exercise with you just now, the breathing, the grounding, the alignment, I immediately felt more calm and more present. So I can't wait for more people to take your course, learn about you and the teaching you've done, and to actually become more whole as a result. So thank you so much.
Jacky, your questions were fantastic. You really did your homework. I felt like I was really with a kindred soul, and I really enjoyed this interview, and I hope people enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Jacky.
Okay,
all right,
take care, bye bye. 谢谢大家收听这一期的 podcast， 我觉得真的非常特别，很多像呼吸、神经系统跟你的能量、你的 charge 生命能量，我觉得都是很有趣的一些主题，也很多很棒的比喻，像是美的价值。那如果你喜欢这个内容的话，Anodea 在 Pressplay 上有个课程，然后在节目栏里有个连结，你输入 LSE250A 可以立刻省250块。有兴趣的朋友们欢迎去参考看看。那再跟大家分享，就是我们淀粉自我成长大家庭的核心价值呢，是希望大家可以在一个自我成长，然后可以安全做自己、自动自发跟互相 support 的社群里，找到自我成长的伙伴。我们创这个社群是创了大概4年，然后这个社群也进入很多的进化跟成长。今年的社群到一个很成熟的地步，我们有自己的网站、自己的 app， 然后淀粉很多的活动，像每个月的淀粉咖啡厅都有300位人参加，是一个很好的让彼此可以遇到一些生活圈外的一些朋友，然后这些人都会是想要自我成长、喜欢看书，对自己生活跟兴趣有不同的目标。那大家耳濡目染之下呢，在同一个环境里，很多时候我觉得把对的价值观跟对的人放在一起，很多事情会自然发生。那当然我们社群也有很多不同的活动啦，不同的频道，让大家可以一起养成好习惯。在我们社群里，很多时候大家会主动发起一些活动，然后其他人会跟着附和，那就自动就成团，大家可以去做自己办很多本来想不到的活动，所以有一个很棒很棒的氛围。那淀粉也非常自动自发，都会一起冥想，一起煮饭，一起运动，很多很多的淀粉发起的一些活动。我们每个月呢，刚刚讲过，也会线上有一个读书会，分享一本对我自我成长影响最大的书，然后也会有一些问卷，让大家可以思考一些对人生很重要的问题。那这样透过一开始给大家做的自我成长指南针，跟每个月的养分，跟每个月新认识的淀粉的伙伴，希望在自我成长路上呢，像一台车有 GPS 有油，然后车上有你很好的朋友可以一起前进。那如果觉得已经2月，然后还没有加入朋友没关系，我们之前的都有一些回播影片，然后也都有整理笔记，让大家可以随时加入，也可以随时跟上我们的进度，完全没有问题。OK，so，等一下会放一些淀粉参加后的心得，那希望在社群里看到大家，然后希望大家2026年呢过了1个月也都过得非常美好。OK，I'll see you soon， 拜拜。
加入淀粉2-3年了，以前我不太敢就在3个人以上的聚会上面说话，加入以后就是开始愿意在大家面前说话，愿意真的说出自己不喜欢的是什么，然后认识很多的淀粉，想要就是让生活都变得更喜欢的样子的人，觉得是一个很不错的群体。
在跟人相处的时候，我发现我不用再过多的想要去修复我自己。加入淀粉大家庭的每个人之后，我发现我其实当一个倾听者，我收获是更多的。然后在每个人的分享当中，我是因为很有兴趣他的议题，然后再丢问题，又发现大家的都很有内涵，水很深，有没有？
我是从2022年的10月加入淀粉的。加入最大的改变就是，我觉得我的说话变得比较慢了，然后脾气变得比较好，应该说比较有包容心这样。
加入淀粉时间大概2个月的时间，然后我觉得因为在淀粉社群会遇到的人都不是过去的生活圈嘛，所以比较不会聚焦在关系啊、连接这些事情上面，反而是会因为议题、兴趣还有想法去结交朋友，然后可以更好的分享这些感受。
我是在疫情的时候，就是2021年的时候加入淀粉，我自己觉得是一个很棒的旅程，因为在这边认识很多好朋友。最大的不同，我觉得是有更多的勇气做自己想做的事情。当我想做什么事的时候，我第一个念头会是说，我要做吗？是我想要的吗？那要我就去做，而不是说，我会不会做不到？
我今年1月才加入，然后我觉得到目前最大的收获就是这里的人都能量很够，然后可以让我想到很多东西，例如之前的咖啡厅交流，然后就跟不同人聊天，然后可以激发自己的很多想法。
我加入淀粉超过了1年，到今年的8月就2年。觉得最大的收获是我开始重视自己的生活步调，然后会开始去调整一些自己的生活作息，然后也开始真的会去想自律这件事情，然后也在这里交到非常多好朋友，所以我很期待下一次的淀粉活动。